Respect is something we all crave, whether in our personal or professional lives. Yet, many of us unknowingly engage in behaviors that chip away at the very respect we seek. These aren't just minor annoyances, they're habits that, if left unchecked, can deeply erode your relationships and reputation. You might think, everyone has bad habits. And you're right, but some habits, in particular, have the power to make others lose respect for you entirely. In today's video, we'll explore 7 toxic habits that are guaranteed to cause people to lose respect for you, and more importantly, how Stoic philosophy can guide us to overcome them. Throughout my life, I've personally experienced the consequences of these habits. They've impacted friendships, work relationships, and even family dynamics. By sharing my own stories, I hope to help you reflect on your own behaviors and make changes where necessary. As the Stoics teach us, respect is earned through integrity, discipline, and consistency, virtues we can all cultivate with awareness and effort. So, grab your coffee or tea, sit back, and let's dive deep into the habits that may be holding you back from living a life full of respect and dignity. Let's get started. Habit 1. Breaking promises. One of the quickest ways to lose respect is by breaking promises, no matter how small. When you give someone your word, they expect you to follow through. Failing to do so tells them that your word is unreliable, and as a result, people will start questioning whether they can trust you at all. I used to be someone who said yes to everything. Whether it was helping a friend move, attending a social event, or taking on an extra task at work, I would agree without thinking. But as time passed, I found myself stretched too thin. I started backing out of commitments at the last minute, thinking, it's just one event, or they'll understand, but they didn't. One incident stands out. A good friend of mine, Sarah, asked me to help her with an important project. I agreed but kept putting it off, assuming she could manage without me. By the time I got around to helping, the project was nearly done, and Sarah had done most of the work on her own. She didn't express anger, but I could feel her disappointment. From that point forward, our relationship was never quite the same. I had lost her trust, and with that, a bit of her respect. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, remind us that our actions define our character. It's not enough to say the right things, we must also do them. If we continually fail to follow through on our promises, we not only disappoint others but also undermine our own integrity. The more often you break promises, the less people will believe you when you commit to something in the future. And over time, this erodes respect to a point where it may be impossible to recover. To break this habit, start by being honest with yourself about what you can and cannot commit to. If you say yes, make it a firm yes, and follow through. If you need to decline, do so politely but firmly. Your word should be as solid as a rock. By sticking to your commitments, you show that you respect others' time, and in return, they will respect you. Habit 2. Interrupting others. Interrupting someone when they are speaking may seem like a minor offense, but it sends a loud message. What I have to say is more important than what you're saying. Over time, this habit causes people to feel disrespected, unheard, and undervalued. I used to be the person who would constantly jump in with my thoughts during conversations. I convinced myself that I was just being engaged and eager, but in reality, I was coming across as rude. One particular instance comes to mind. I was at a family gathering, and my cousin was sharing a story about a recent achievement. Halfway through, I interrupted with my own anecdote, thinking I was adding to the conversation. The look on her face told me otherwise. She fell silent, and the atmosphere shifted. I hadn't meant to belittle her experience, but that's exactly what I did. I realized I was constantly cutting people off because I was more focused on expressing my own thoughts than truly listening. The Stoics, particularly Seneca, emphasized the importance of listening before speaking. Conversations should be opportunities for understanding, not competitions for airtime. When you interrupt someone, you're not just breaking the flow of dialogue, you're signaling that their voice doesn't matter as much as yours. Over time, this habit leads to a breakdown in communication and respect. To fix this, practice active listening. When someone speaks, give them your full attention. Pause before responding and make sure they've finished their point. By doing this, you show that you value their contribution to the conversation, and in turn, they'll respect you for being considerate. Habit 3. Complaining constantly. We all have bad days. Sometimes things just don't go the way we planned, and it's perfectly natural to vent from time to time. But when complaining becomes a regular habit, it starts to wear on the people around you. Constantly airing your grievances can turn you into a negative presence, and before long, people will begin to distance themselves. Not only do they lose respect for you, but they also stop taking your concerns seriously. I used to be someone who complained about everything. Whether it was my job, traffic, or even the weather, I found something to be unhappy about and made sure everyone knew it. I remember a time when I was working on a group project during college. Every meeting, I would bring up all the ways the project was unfair or how our professor wasn't doing enough to support us. At first, my teammates sympathized, but as time went on, I noticed they began tuning me out. One day, a team member bluntly told me, "You're making this harder for all of us by focusing on the negatives." That hit hard. My constant complaining wasn't just a personal venting session. It was dragging down the entire group. From that moment, I realized how corrosive this habit was. The Stoics believed that our focus should be on what we can control, not on what we can't. Complaining keeps us stuck in the realm of what we cannot change. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Instead of complaining, the Stoics teach us to shift our energy towards solutions and improvements. This doesn't mean ignoring problems, but rather facing them with a proactive and constructive mindset. To break the habit of constant complaining, try practicing gratitude. When you feel the urge to complain, take a moment to recognize what's going well in your life. Focus on the positives and be mindful of how you express your concerns. By doing this, you'll not only improve your outlook on life, but also earn the respect of those around you. People are drawn to those who lift them up, not drag them down. Habit 4. Being unreliable. If there's one thing that can quickly lead people to lose respect for you, it's being unreliable. When you constantly cancel plans, miss deadlines, or fail to show up when you said you would, you send a clear message that others can't count on you. Reliability is foundational in every relationship, from friendships to professional collaborations. I learned this the hard way in my early 20s when I developed a reputation as the person who could never be counted on. There was one instance that really stands out. A close friend of mine was planning a big birthday celebration, and I promised to be there. She had put a lot of effort into organizing the event, and I knew it meant a lot to her. But on the day of the party, I got caught up in something else and decided not to go. Worse yet, I didn't even inform her until after the event had already started. When I finally called to apologize, I could hear the disappointment in her voice. Our friendship was never quite the same after that. I had shown her that my promises meant nothing, and as a result, she stopped trusting me. The Stoics believed that our word is a reflection of our character. Seneca teaches that we should be cautious with promises because breaking them damages not only our reputation but also our integrity. Being reliable isn't just about showing up physically. It's about showing that you respect others' time and effort. When you commit to something, you're putting your reputation on the line. Every time you break a commitment, you chip away at the trust people have in you. To fix this habit, start by only making promises you know you can keep. Don't overcommit just to please people in the moment. If you say you'll do something, follow through, no matter how inconvenient it might become. If something unavoidable comes up, communicate it early and honestly. By being dependable, you'll build a reputation as someone who can be trusted, and people will respect you for it. Habit 5. Lack of accountability. One of the most damaging habits you can have is refusing to take responsibility for your actions. Blaming others for your mistakes or making excuses not only undermines your credibility, but also shows a lack of maturity. We all make mistakes. It's part of being human. But when you fail to own up to them, people lose respect for you because they see you as someone who avoids accountability. I used to be someone who, when things went wrong, would look for anyone or anything else to blame. Whether it was blaming my busy schedule for missing a deadline or blaming others for a failed group project, I rarely took full responsibility for my actions. One event that stands out occurred at work. I was assigned a project with a tight deadline, and I didn't manage my time well. When the deadline arrived, I wasn't even halfway done. Instead of admitting my fault, I blamed my coworkers, claiming that they hadn't provided me with the necessary information. My boss saw through the excuse and called me out on it. I was embarrassed but also realized that my habit of deflecting blame was costing me respect at work. The Stoics emphasize personal responsibility and accountability. Epictetus teaches that we are responsible for our own actions, and that blaming others for our failures is not only unproductive but also damaging to our character. Taking responsibility for your actions, especially when you've made a mistake, shows integrity and strength. People respect those who are willing to admit when they're wrong and take steps to make things right. To break this habit, practice owning up to your mistakes. When something goes wrong, resist the urge to point fingers. Instead, acknowledge your part in the situation and focus on how you can fix it. By doing this, you demonstrate maturity and accountability, which are key ingredients for earning and maintaining respect. Habit 7. Being disrespectful to others. One of the fastest ways to lose respect is by being disrespectful toward others. Whether it's talking down to someone, making derogatory comments, or simply dismissing their opinions, disrespectful behavior sends a clear message that you see yourself as superior. I've witnessed this firsthand. I once worked with a colleague who consistently spoke over others during meetings, belittled their ideas, and rarely acknowledged anyone else's contributions. While he was skilled at his job, his disrespectful attitude caused people to distance themselves from him, and eventually, his reputation took a nosedive. There's a particular incident that sticks with me. During a team meeting, my colleague interrupted another coworker mid-sentence, dismissing her idea as stupid. The room fell silent. It wasn't just the words he used, but the dismissive tone and lack of consideration for her opinion. From that moment on, people were reluctant to engage with him, and over time, he lost not just the respect of his peers, but also his position. The Stoics believed that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. Marcus Aurelius teaches us to value the thoughts and opinions of others, regardless of our personal judgments. When we treat others with respect, we earn respect in return. Disrespect, on the other hand, alienates people and creates an environment of hostility. To break this habit, start by being more mindful of how you interact with others. Pay attention to your tone, your body language, and the words you use. Practice empathy by considering how your actions and words might affect those around you. When you show respect to others, you create a foundation of mutual respect that strengthens relationships and builds trust. Respect is earned through actions, not words. By avoiding these 7 toxic habits, you can build stronger, healthier relationships both personally and professionally. The teachings of Stoicism remind us that living a life of integrity, accountability, and humility is the surest way to earn and maintain the respect of others. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to Stoic Mindset, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What habits have you noticed that make people lose respect for others? Let's keep the conversation going and strive to become better versions of ourselves every day.